So my conflict situation is you have just moved into a new apartment with a roommate. You have 2 assigned parking spaces right next to each other. Your roommate usually comes home before you, and lately has been carelessly parking over the line so that he is almost halfway into your parking space. It makes parking difficult, and you wind up uncomfortably close to the other cars on either side of you. You're worried about someone digging into your car when they open their door. I wrote, I feel disregarded when you carelessly park over the line into my parking space. I realize that you may not even realize that you've been doing this. This is especially difficult for me to address with you because I don't want you to see me as a nitpicky new, roommate, since we really don't know each other very well yet. I will try to prove to you that I'm not a difficult roommate to have once we resolve this issue. I feel like this could be resolved if you could just be a little bit more respectful of everyone's parking spaces in our new apartment building.
Sean, that was really good. That was the longest I think I've ever heard. But that was really good. That was perfect. You acknowledged your responsibility for your own feelings. You explained the problem behavior, you had your consequence, and you asked for a change in the behavior. So, perfect. And then, do you want to do your stuff? Or do you want to go next? Okay, we'll go this way. Steven is eager. Oh, just kidding. That's going to be an awkward angle up my nose. Okay.
You recently moved back home to live with your mother and younger sister. Your younger sister keeps borrowing your clothes without your permission. She also snooped through your room and looked at your diary, cell phone, and other personal items. So, I statement. I feel disrespect each time I see you in my clothes without my permission. And another statement was, I feel that my privacy is being breached upon when you sneak into my room and look through my diary, cell phones, and my personal belongings.
That's good. The only thing I would say is to make a specific request. I want you to stop doing that. Although I think in your case, it's pretty clear that you want the behavior to stop. So I think that would work just as well. But for the sake of this, that would be the only addition. Okay, Stephanie, do you want to read yours?
Yeah. Your husband used to be a server in a fancy restaurant. Whenever you go out to eat, he makes comments about the quality of service in the restaurant. Sometimes when the service is not so great, he makes comments directly to the staff in a way that you feel is rude. Last night, he made a scene about a stained tablecloth on the table where you were intently sitting. You were so embarrassed by his behavior that you left the waitress a really big tip. So my statement. I feel hurt when you make a scene whenever we go out. I am supposed to be the center of attention, not that stain on the table, nor that waitress. I spent so much time on my hair and my makeup just to look good for you. I'm sorry. I wish you would notice me more. I did not go to the gym for no reason.
You never recommend that.
No. So that started off really, really good. I think you should be an actress.
So hilarious.
You never made a comment on that.
Is Stephanie...
You're rather making a comment and staying on
Yeah. So I think Stephanie should be an actress. But also, so that was good to start because you said you gave your good feeling statement, but it got a little blurry when you were describing the problem behavior and the consequence. Because you kind of went into some other issues, which might be conflicts that need resolving, but when you do a conflict, it's much easier to stick with the one at hand. So I feel upset when you make a scene in public because it embarrasses me, and I wish you would stop doing that.
Okay.
Or I wish that you would be quieter, just talk about it with me, don't talk about it with the staff, something like that. And then after that you can say, you don't notice me enough, and that makes me feel, but try to stick to one conflict at a time, because I think it brings up other issues, and it kind of got muddled there in the middle. But that was really good, and you should be an actress.
Just saying.
Definitely better. Now I wish we had done the role playing, now that I know that Stephanie is such a good actress. Okay, if somebody else wants to hold it, and I'll go to the last 2 slides, which are really, really quick, and then we'll just do the evaluation and we'll be done. So the next rule, this one I initially had a whole thing on communication climate or conflict climate, but for practical purposes, I'm not going to get too into it. I'm just going to say that you should be aware that there are harmful conflict climates and there are productive conflict climates and nurturing conflict climates, and that the way that we communicate in conflict is both affected by these climates and affects it. So things that make a bad or a harmful conflict climate include abuse of power, competition, distrust, defensive behavior, and groupthink. And these usually will produce, climates like that will produce unsatisfactory outcomes. So just be aware of it. Take note. If you feel like there's a really harmful conflict climate, first you might need to address that before you start trying to deal with individual conflicts. The last one is don't stress. Don't let stress or anger be in control. This is really, I added this one specifically because we are paraeducators and we have stressful jobs. And sometimes I might be really stressed out at our June, at my student. And I might try to deal with a conflict right after he's been throwing himself on the ground and having a tantrum. And I might take out my stress and anger over that on the person who I'm trying to resolve the conflict with. And maybe the conflict is something like, you ate my last cookie that was in the fridge and it was mine. That's not a big deal, but because I'm so stressed out about my own personal stress from my job, I might flip out and just be really angry. So just be aware that high stress lowers tolerance for conflict, and just don't attempt to deal with conflicts when you're in stress overload. Sometimes retreat is the best strategy. It doesn't mean you're admitting defeat. In military conflicts, retreat doesn't mean you lose the war. It just means you're going to regroup. You're going to take a minute and you're going to assess the situation, and then, or in war, a couple of days or whatever, and then come back and deal with it when you're better prepared. So retreat temporarily and revisit the issue later. The last one, so we're done with all of this, face-to-face versus computer-mediated communication. This one I also added in because it's 2014 and we communicate, I feel like, most of the time through email, through text message a lot. Even in work, not just in work but in home, I text my fiance all day. So because conflict arises anyway, it's a natural thing, the more we communicate via computer-mediated communication, the more we're going to get into conflicts in that way. But just be aware that there's more potential for miscommunication when you communicate that way. And because there's a physical distance between the two people, there's less perceived accountability. So what this means is I might be more aggressive than I would be if I were standing face-to-face with the person. It's been observed in many studies that this is just the way we are. If we're not standing face-to-face with the person, we're going to resort to aggressive language way more quickly. So if you think a conflict is getting out of control via email or text, sometimes the best thing to do is just set up a face-to-face meeting. And the very last one, taking it personally. So don't take it personally. Taking it personally means a feeling of being personally engaged in a punishing life event. So a person can end up feeling threatened, anxious, damaged, devalued, and insulted when engaging in conflict. These kinds of feelings are associated with taking conflict personally, or with the tendency to avoid conflict, to be more aggressive once involved in a conflict, and to have less effective conflict communication in general. So how not to take it personally brings us back to this subject that we opened up with, which is having a positive view of conflict. Remember that conflict can be productive and lead to positive change in a relationship or a situation. And that's the end of that. So if you just take out the pink sheet, that is the evaluation.